What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Dipped in Tone. I'm Rhett.
I'm Zach.
I'm trying out a new camera angle this week. The one thing about this setup, since redoing my room, that I haven't figured out and nailed down is this camera angle for the podcast. I don't have room for a full camera right here, so I'm trying stuff. This one feels too wide, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
if it's bothering anybody, let me know.
You know what I've been trying lately? This. Wait.
I almost said mushrooms, and then I think
this is way better. So this episode is not sponsored by Flarp, but I really enjoy Flarp. I think this is the most fun.
Flarp, hit us up, man.
Flarp, hey, this is the most fun you can have for under $2. I swear. I've just been tormenting the guys walking around the shop going, hey, so did you get those boards started? I've been really thinking about maybe working on some new designs.
Dude, you said Graham was really good at that, right?
Yes. Have I already done this?
No, not on the show. You've done it. You've done the bit for probably everyone else in your life. And now we're bringing it full circle to the show.
It becomes part of my person. And for those listening, you're welcome.
Hell yeah. What's going on? What's new?
Oh man, just insanely busy as always. I've really been trying just to figure out how to stay organized again. Like, I feel like I kind of had it good. I was keeping my notebook, I had my little field notes, and I still do that. But now that there's just too much stuff. But we just got a pallet of 2 rock. We're getting another pallet of 2 rock. Like the gear is flowing in and out, and it's just been wild. And then all the stuff with Mythos has been just nutty, trying to gear up for this next big release. But
pallet of 2 rock sounds like drugs.
It does. It's decidedly not, I promise you. But
like a cool drug.
Yeah,
it's like doesn't have a lot of downsides.
It's a designer drug.
The designer party drug.
Yeah.
Pallet of 2 rock. Nice.
What about you? You've been busy like crazy.
Yeah, dude. It's what's that saying? When it rains, it pours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right when this airs, we'll be in Stillwater, Oklahoma, getting ready for the race. The bike race is this week. For those that don't know, I've been training for my first bike race. It's 106 miles on the dirt roads of Oklahoma. It's going to be around 7,000 feet of climbing, over 106 miles. I am equally stoked and terrified of it.
How long
the
will
farthest
that take?
I've ridden, I don't know.
Okay.
So it's off-road, it's gravel racing, but the gravel in Oklahoma and Stillwater is just red dirt. And what happens is when it rains, that dirt turns into the gnarliest, thickest mud you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And the nickname for this race is the Mud South, because if it's a mud year, it becomes a shit show, and it destroys bikes. It destroys people. What happens is the mud just gets covered in everything. It covers your wheels. Your wheels don't roll. You have to walk through the mud. And then as you get riding again, the mud hardens and kind of sets up almost like a concrete, and it just destroys your bike. So, but we've been watching the weather. It's looking dry as of today. If it's dry, my goal is under 9 hours to do it in under 9. We'll see though. We'll see.
Man.
The pros, because it's a race, and this is the first like pro race of the season, where like a lot of the heavy hitters in the men's field and the women's field come out. And it's interesting because for them, this is when everyone kind of comes out for the first time and shows how fit they're going to be for the year, and if their training in the off season has worked. The pro men, if it's dry, will do it in 4.5 hours. They'll be averaging 23, 24 miles an hour on dirt, mud roads on bicycles.
Dang.
It's insane. It is insane how fast these people are. So I won't be doing that. But yeah, we've been trying to get ready for that. It's been a shit show. My truck. Oh my.
Oh yeah.
I've driven the same Toyota FJ Cruiser since 2008. It has almost 300,000 miles on it. I love it. I will never get rid of it. And this week I've had to drop $7,500 into it to get it ready for this thing. It's one of those things, man. Like,
yeah. Oh man, what's the Kelly Blue Book on one of those things?
I looked last night. It's probably 8, 9.
Like, ain't that the way it goes?
That's the way it goes. And it's one of those things where it's just a bunch of catastrophic stuff just kind of went wrong all at the same time. And it's like, okay, well, we got to do it. So,
man, it's like, I feel like that always happens anytime something important, is coming up, or like it also, that always happens to me every time I get back from being out of town, and they don't listen to this, but when my in-laws watch the house, then like something like serious breaks. It's like, I was about to switch on the garbage disposal a few weeks ago, and they were like, no. I was like, what happened?
What? You didn't tell me this?
Oh no, like, I don't know, something got in there, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't work anymore. I'm like, great, thanks.
Cool.
So
did I tell you about our squirrel situation?
Our squirrel situation? No, that is like, hold on, here's the clip, internet.
Oh, dude, when we were at NAMM, I didn't tell you this?
No.
Holy shit, man. When we were at NAMM, a squirrel got in our house. Like, and I mean in the house. It was in the kitchen. It was in the bedroom. It was in all the rooms. It was here for at least 5 to 6 days that we know of. And it pissed and shat, and somehow it was bleeding. I don't know why or where or how, but it was bleeding, and there was squirrel blood all over the damn house. Oh, no. In the kitchen, in the bedroom, downstairs. We had to throw away a couch. The kitchen couch that we had.
Yeah.
That great. We had to throw it away because it was covered in. I had a nylon string, my couch guitar. I have to clean it. It got in the guitar, like in the sound hole and inside the guitar. And dude.
Wow. I wonder if because you have those big windows in the kitchen. I wonder if it like ran into the window and like hurt itself.
It got in through the basement, the basement storage area. So I went through with that spray foam, like Can of Great Stuff shit. I went ham on I just filled every nook and cranny with that foam shit. Like, so we had that. Then the basement flooded. Then we've had the truck. It's just the year's off to a hell of a start, man.
Oh, hey. Well, I mean, since we're telling stories about rodents getting into domiciles and stuff, can I tell one? Internet, is that okay?
Let's go, man.
So when I had to be in high school. My dad sold insurance. He did that forever, and he had an office building in downtown Sparta, Tennessee, and it was old. And Dad once was like, man, I saw this rat outside, and it was like the size of a groundhog. It was huge. And I was like, oh man. He said, I hope it doesn't get in. And then like a week later, he saw it in the office somewhere. It had found a hole and had got in. And then it was like got underneath. And so Dad got a mouse trap, quote unquote, that was about the size of a clipboard. It was huge.
And it's a bear trap, basically.
Oh yeah. And so Dad it was like Friday, he set the trap. Saturday, he's like, hey, let's go to the shop or the office and make sure, we caught that thing or we didn't catch that thing and see. And we walked in and there is just blood.
Oh my God.
Everywhere. And it made a trail through the back little like entrance, like area all the way upstairs where there was like the kitchen and like the break rooms and stuff. And had died, and Dad was like, just don't go up there.
Because it's a crime scene.
He was like, it must have flopped, and it was trying to like gnaw its foot off, and he was like, it's the biggest rat I've ever seen.
Oh God, that's so brutal. It's so brutal. We had a trap set up, but it was one of those like cage traps. Because like I can't stomach the idea of like making an animal suffer. Like,
me too.
Yeah, I can't do it. I even thought, because we have our backyard is full of squirrels, and I know the squirrel that's in it because, dude, when we got home from NAMM, we went downstairs, and Penny, our dog, loves squirrels, and there was a moment of pure chaos that we were in the basement with the squirrel trying to get it out, and our dog is chasing it. She's chasing it upstairs. It comes back. It was like a Looney Tunes like
it's like National Lampoon Christmas.
like you'd see the squirrel run by the door and then the dog running by and the squirrel going the other way and the dog running the other way. And it was yelling and screaming, and I had gloves on and I'm trying to catch it until he's got a broom and we're blocking off doorways and we're just,
man.
But I know the squirrel because it has like, it's missing most of its tail, and that little fucker is still in the backyard. I saw him yesterday on the back deck, and I'm like, I'm going to go buy an air rifle and start just sitting on my back deck and picking off squirrels. At least I thought it was. And then I'm like, I don't want to kill an animal.
I'm right there with you. But anyway,
I'm not gonna eat it. Anyway, yeah. So this is Dipped in Tone. This is a guitar podcast, apparently.
This is what happens when Addison's not here.
Yeah, Addison's
is out
not
of town,
here.
So.
So we're distracted. Do we have to plug anything? What are we plugging today?
I think we're plug free.
Oh, we got Patreon. We got to plug the patrons.
Oh, of course.
Everyone is here hanging out in the chat while we're watching. We got a good little crew today. If you want to join our Patreon, links in the description. You get access to the episodes while we're recording live. You also get access to a bonus episode, which based off of how this episode is going today, I think the bonus is probably going to be a lot of fun. So great way to support the show. Single tier. Check out more information about joining the Patreon down below. Please subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening to the podcast. It helps new people find the show. And again, like we stated last week, our official goal here at Dipped in Tone Industries is world domination. So you can help us get there by subscribing and leaving a nice review or comment.
That's it. So we're just going to get into the fun stuff right out of the gate here.
This episode's going to be kind of a bummer, I think.
All around bummer.
All around.
So let's start with this may be the most, this one sucks. Tariffs.
Tariffs, man. Tariffs.
So
yeah,
let's try our best to avoid any political talk. We're just going to talk about the shit show that will be what eventually could happen to the guitar industry thanks to increase in tariffs.
Yeah. So again, we're going to try to remain apolitical as best as we can.
Yeah.
But and share this from our two perspectives, because I think you and I both have a unique perspective on the industry. You're a builder. You run a company. Mm-hmm. You deal directly with supply chain. Yeah. And I am more the content creator who's working with a lot of companies. And so why don't you start? So how is this affecting you at all yet?
Yes. So even before all this kind of hit, so we're filming this on the 5th of March, 2025. And there were a lot of increases already kind of like coming, mainly for circuit boards. If you import boards, which most people do, the cost of producing circuit boards in the United States, unless you have a really grand scale, is just astronomical, which makes sense. But all of the overseas fab houses have really increased their price. And part of it is it's not so much the circuit boards themselves, it's the assembly part. So placing components, component costs have gone up. And even yesterday, I had to buy jacks, like these sort of things. Circuit board, PCB mounted mono jacks. We get these, they're Neutrik Reen, a quality but relatively affordable jack. I've gone through a lot of these, and these are the ones I like the most. And I was texting you and Addison. These went from about 80 cents at the bulk we buy them to $1.50.
Jesus, dude.
So, that's it's not 100%, it's not double, but it's close. And I mean, the last time I bought them was just a few months ago. So it wasn't like, this slow burn. It was kind of like what I imagine happened, and it is going to happen on any of these pieces that have to be brought in from China. You're just going to see a blanket increase. Sheet aluminum for making enclosures like this sort of thing, it's going to go up. Cast aluminum, which most every guitar pedal manufacturer, those are going to go up a lot because no one in the States makes those. And so what we're going to see is all of the component costs that are manufactured overseas is going to jump. I would say at least 50%, if not 100% in the next year or so. Circuit boards are probably going to go up another 25 to, I'd say, maybe 40%. So the cost of all these things is going to really start ramping up. And it's fine if you're looking at the onesie twosies, you know, it's like, oh, you know, hey, my board, the guts of this pedal are only like $2 or $3 more expensive. But if you're doing stuff at scale, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and it's cumulative. It's across the whole board. And then like, so, I mean, I'm assuming you, like a lot of other manufacturers, are just going to have to increase prices to maintain your margin, right? Like that's how this is going to work?
Well, you know, I think, well, we are not planning on doing that yet. Because luckily a lot of the things that are the biggest, expenses for the pedals we build, we have a pretty good inventory of. So we're going to try to ride this out and just figure out how we can work this margin into what we currently make. Luckily, and I'm not saying this to boast, I mean, Josh Scott already did a really incredible video talking about the true cost of pedals. The cost of a pedal is not crazy. Like there's good margins in it, but operating this kind of business is not cheap. So, we're not planning on doing any price increases as of yet, but we haven't really fully seen what is going to happen. Because who's to say in the next 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, what sort of like blanket cost increase this is going to take across the entire industry. And if everyone else is raising their prices and that becomes the new norm, there is something to be said about having stuff that appears too cheap. So, you know, it's going to be a weird game we have to play.
Yeah, I think we're headed for a rough road in lots of industries, but we're just going to focus on ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right from the pedal perspective, the pedal manufacturing perspective. There are some healthier. I think you probably have more headroom to play with on the margins than like an amp builder, for example, or a guitar builder. I mean, I think about some of these big box guitar brands that are building a majority of their revenue comes from guitars made in Mexico, for example. And those, again, from what I've seen so far today as a recording, it looks like those prices are going up around, I guess, 25%, right? Because that's what the tariff that we're imposing on Mexico and Canada are. And that's a significant increase in the price of a Mexican Fender, for example.
And it's interesting, like the Mexican Fender stuff, I think more than any other line of guitars that has ever really been part of like, you know, the guitar space. I think people, unless you were getting into this within the past couple of years, guys who are my age or a little bit older, they think about Mexican standard stuff or just the standard, you know, import line. It was never called Mexican standard. It's just, that was, you know, what we called it. We were looking at our musician's friend, our old AMS Sweetwater catalogs from back in the day, and those things are like $500 or $600.
Yeah.
And, you know, now the thought of that is kind of insane. So I think it's going to take a huge shift in like optics for the guitar players out there who are the consumers to kind of wrap their head around what's going to happen. But for the pedals, my biggest fear more than anything is, you know, I think Mythos is positioned itself in a stable place. I think we have a strong foothold. I'm unsure what the future will hold, but I'm worried about all of my friends who are smaller, who may just really be starting out in having a company, and really trying to get out there and do this full time, and this happening now. And furthermore, the guys who are really big, you know, they're just going to have such a, like, we're coming off, and it's been 5 years, but the boom of COVID, how much everyone ramped up trying to find a new normal, getting kind of back to normality. And then this is just going to be such a kick in the teeth for so many builders, and especially the small guys.
Yeah. And, to clarify, I'm not saying Fender is going to increase their prices 25%. We don't know what they're going to do.
No.
We're speculating here. But this isn't just going to affect the Mexican made stuff or any of the import stuff. This is going to affect American made stuff as well. We talked about this, I think, a few months ago, but when I went to Fender in August to shoot for the Ultra 2 launch, and I got to tour the factory, it was super cool, but I was struck by, one thing about them is, they're doing a lot of their manufacturing in house, like their hardware, their bridges, their tail pieces, all that stuff. They have these giant presses, and they're making a lot of that stuff in house. And so you think about, well, yeah, this is made in USA, but the steel is probably not made in the USA. I think Chinese steel is a significantly large part of the international steel market, something like 70 or 80%. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this field, but it brings up this whole conversation of what does made in USA actually mean anymore? Yeah. And there are certain regulations on that. And like California, for example, made in USA, in fact, Fender, I think took made in USA off of the guitars, and now it just says like Corona, California on them, because according to California state law, I think a certain amount of the materials that go into building a product have to actually be sourced from the United States. And that's just not how we do things here now. And especially if you're building amps, you're building pedals, like, yes, Mythos pedals is made in USA. You guys are building,
they're assembled
in Nashville, Tennessee, right? But the boards are made in China. Yeah. The aluminum enclosures are cast in China, I'm assuming. And, so even if you're buying a US made product from a US company, more than likely these prices are going to increase as well, because the price of the materials that they're sourcing are going to go up. And to your point, I think a lot of, not just small builders, I think we're going to see some pretty well-established brands on the ropes if these tariffs hold for a significant period of time. And that's going to really suck. We're going to see some brands that have been around, some legacy brands that have been around for a long time, fold in our industry because of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's thinking about all the components that go into all these things, I think that's where we're going to see the most increase in the pressure points for brands, because the Herculean Deluxe, it has 2 relays, and I was ordering some more boards right before all this went down, but I had heard, through friends, like, hey, all the circuit boards are kind of high right now. And the relays that are on that thing were sub $1. And now, just like those jacks, are like $1.50. And those are the things I'm most concerned about. Resistors, capacitors, minor. Like that's if it goes up 25% and it's, those parts, you're not going to really feel it. But knobs, jacks, any electromechanical things, physical or toggle switches, all that stuff, relays, LEDs shouldn't. But then in the guitar, pickup magnets are most always imported. On a Gibson, and I'd say on a Fender too, a lot of the, all the wood stuff, all the paint stuff, maybe frets, those are probably all USA made, but I can imagine tuners, knobs, the pickup plastics, are mostly imported. Not all of it. There are a lot of people molding and making stuff, especially for Gibson here in the States, but those tiny things are really, really, really going to put the hurt on even the big guys. Could you imagine how many Stratocaster pick guards they have to make? I don't think they're cutting them. I'm sure they're imported. And even if they're imported from their own factory in Mexico, an hour or so away, they're still going to have to import them and have to pay all the fees on these things.
The thing I think about is the human cost of this.
Yeah.
From my perspective, doing what I do, I get to work with a lot of brands, and I've gotten to know a lot of the people behind these brands. And I think people would be shocked at how small most of these companies actually are. In fact, we were in talks with an American amp company, a well-established legacy brand name, American amp company. That is a big name. Mm-hmm. They've got some really big players on their roster, and the whole company is 7 people. And I was shocked when I found that out like 2 weeks ago. I was like, holy shit, I thought they were way bigger than that. A lot of these companies that you think are these like big manufacturing powerhouses, they're a handful of people. And this is their livelihood. This is their passion. This is their career. And, it's so easy to be critical of companies and the pricing structure and how they roll stuff out and all that kind of stuff. But one thing I try to keep in mind is, like, at the end of the day, whether it's a big corporation, Gibson or Fender or whatever, or it's a small boutique builder or something in between, like, these are people doing this stuff. These are people on an assembly line building these things. This is what's paying for their healthcare. This is what's paying for their children to go to school. This is what's, building their 401k or their kids' college fund. Like, there's a huge human cost to this stuff that, as guitar players, a lot of times we're not aware of. We just see, like, man, I remember when those guitars were $500. What are they doing? They're gouging us. It's like, well, I mean, I don't know, man. From what I've seen, in my perspective, like, very few people in this industry are getting rich off of this.
Right.
Very few, if any. In fact, most of the people I know that are in a high tax bracket, let's say, made that money elsewhere and then came into this industry, and they do it as not necessarily a passion project. It's a business, but very rarely have I seen a company get built in the guitar space and make the founder of that company super wealthy, and they're just, Scrooge McDuck diving into their vats of money. It's not how it works, man. And that's the thing I'm thinking about. It's like, we have a lot of friends in this industry, man, that are going to be really hurt by this. And that really pisses me off. It really pisses me off.
Yeah. I think, you're exactly right. I think it's going to have a pretty substantial effect across the entire industry because, for all this stuff, like what you do, Rhett, and what so many other people do, that you're partnering, you're working with these companies, those budgets to do those sort of things might go away.
Oh, they're definitely going to go away.
Like trade show stuff, YouTube budgets for having demonstrations or anything for their own channel. All that stuff is going to drastically shift. And I think we kind of have to mentally prepare ourselves for that to happen. I hope not. I hope that people go, like, wait a minute, this is really fucking stupid, and wake up. But I don't know. I
don't hold out hope for that. Based on the decisions this country has made over the last few years, I think we're headed straight for the drain, man. I'll just tell you where my head's at with this stuff. So, the past few years since COVID, as a content creator, things have been really good. Mm-hmm. My channel took off in 2020. I got really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, and I was able to build a career out of this. And over the last 5 years, I've made a lot of content around gear from a review perspective or from an education perspective. And I'd say, in some form or fashion, a lot of that content was sponsored or supported by a manufacturer or a retailer, either directly by giving me a piece of gear or indirectly by offering me affiliate marketing links and things like that, where I earn a commission off the sale of that gear. And I always disclose this stuff, right? Because it's ethical. It's the right thing to do. But those budgets are going to start drying up. And I not necessarily saw the writing on the wall for this a few years ago, but I had a feeling that something like this, I had a feeling that I could not rely on other companies or other manufacturers or platforms like YouTube or Instagram, I could not rely on them for my income. So we started making video courses, educational courses, and I built a business that is completely independent of the YouTube platform and completely independent of these manufacturers and retailers. That was my own thing. And the sole purpose of that was for security, was diversity of income and security as a way to sort of hedge my bets against something like this happening. We didn't know it was going to be this thing specifically, but I knew at some point something was going to happen. There was going to be a disruption in the market. YouTube landscape would change. Monetization would change. You can't rely on these other brands and these other platforms for your income. And so where I'm looking at now is like, okay, I've got the business. We've got a healthy, sort of foundation built on the education sort of platform. Content wise, we'll see how things go, but I'm probably going to be shifting a lot of the videos that I make away from gear focused stuff for a few reasons. Primarily, I think we're headed towards a pretty big dip, crash, recession in the economy. I think a lot of people are not going to have disposable income to spend on amps and pedals and $3,000 Jack White triple casters and all this kind of stuff. And so from a business perspective, I don't want to be relying on that type of content to continue to grow my channel, my business. From a human perspective, I don't want to be out here talking about all this gear and this expensive stuff when most people can't afford it and can't buy it. Yeah. And so I think I'll probably be shifting a lot of what I talk about on my channel towards more of like an education based thing, towards more playing stuff, towards more, away from the gear focused thing. But there's a cost with that as well. And what we were just talking about with a lot of these brands and these companies, like my channel and other people in my sort of circle have been able to bring a lot of attention and do a lot of good for these brands and these manufacturers and these people's businesses. And for the record, I feel really good about that. I love being able to highlight a pedal or a guitar that's especially something built by a small company, and then get messages from them a few months later, be like, dude, that video you made like totally changed things. Like we've got orders out the door now. And like I love that. I love being able to do that. And so I'm conscious that shifting the types of videos and the stuff that I make away from that is going to take those opportunities away from people. So I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted.
Well, you've always, I feel like you're in a different position than a lot of other guys because you've always kind of shown stuff you genuinely liked. Yeah. And it was never like, hey, a new X brand pedal, from so-and-so. So I think, you'll probably still have some of that. And that's the thing, I think in this community that people still get excited about is like the what's that sort of moment. And I'm sure that will still persist because despite maybe not doing as much collaboration with these brands, you're still going to like have gear and try things and stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like I'm not going to ever talk about pieces of gear or whatever, because that's still important to me and everything. But I'm more so focusing on like, will it make sense to partner with a retailer or a company to promote a new piece of gear, knowing that like most of the audience, at least in the US, isn't going to be in a position to buy it,
Yeah. And that is the biggest thing that, in addition to just general costs going up for everything. And that's been something that I've thought about a lot too. It's like and this is something that, being in our position, we might not have known what was going to happen, but we've both felt like there's going to be a shift, like you said, whether it was something tangible or not. But I think moving forward, and something I've talked to other retailers about, is like the high-end stuff, it will probably persist, maybe not in the scale that it was or is, but I feel like, that's kind of a safe bet. And I feel fortunate that we had the ability to open this guitar store. So mainly because I feel like all of the more affordable gear, that's going to become harder and harder for the average folk to get, because, you know, when you get emails, you know, on via like the Mythos site asking for financing options for like a, you know, couple $100 pedal, where I had never thought about that before, then that kind of changed how the market is like viewing these things as more of a luxury item. And that's just going to go away, and it's going to get harder and harder for people, especially the small brands who don't have the dealer base and stuff, especially abroad, to support themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, man. It's going to be, my hope is that none of this stuff holds, that people realize what a dumb fucking move this is. And that, I'm really struggling to not get political here, man. It's taken every fiber of my being to not just erupt. But, yeah, my hope is that this doesn't hold, that we understand that this is an incredibly fucking stupid move. It's going to hurt a lot of people, and we just move on and move past it. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? You know, I think the lesson to take away from this, though, is like, if you are someone who is self-employed, an entrepreneur, someone who wants to do that kind of thing, especially in this industry, diversity is mandatory. You've got to find a way of diversifying your income streams and diversifying your options. You cannot have all your eggs in one basket, especially in this world. You just can't do it. If you're someone who wants to get into the social media landscape and content creation, you cannot rely on these tech platforms to be good partners. They are not reliable partners. They will never be reliable partners. You have to use them for what they are good at, which is distributors. They're a great publicist. They're great at building an audience and finding you your audience. And then it's up to you to come up with something that will help you create a stable living based off of that audience. And frankly, I think it's not too dissimilar in your perspective as like you did this last year with the guitar store. When you first brought up the guitar store idea to me, I was like, what the, why would you, like, I didn't think it was a good idea. I'll be honest. I was like, I don't get, why are you trying to do that? Just seems like, and I was completely wrong. It's gone incredibly well, and it's worked because now I think you're really smart. You know, even with this podcast, we always kind of joke that this started off as a joke, and this started off as like we just were crashing each other's, you know, Instagram live streams, which is true. But I think underneath that, we both understood like, oh no, we need to have some kind of footprint. We need to have some kind of audience online, some kind of thing that people can connect with, and we can build community around. Not strictly from a business perspective. This is not all about money, but from the business perspective of like, this is going to help me, it's going to help you, it's going to help Mythos, and it has. Yeah,
I had a phone call yesterday with a guy talking just about pickups, and he's like, you know, I just appreciate what you do because I understand what you want out of your gear, how you approach stuff, and there's a connection there, and there's a trust. And I think, you know, I like you've said countless times, there's nothing more validating than being out somewhere and someone saying, "Hey, I love Dipped in Tone," and all this stuff. Because that's ultimately the best thing about this. Because Rhett and I are not getting rich off of this. I couldn't even pay my mortgage off what we're getting for this yet. Especially now since I messed up all the AdSense. But that's another story. But you're right. I think that is the thing that's going to be the hardest, but the most rewarding for anybody if you're trying to start, if you have started, if you're currently doing it, finding your lane to connect with people and in an honest way.
Well, yeah, and there's to what you just said, like there's more to something like this than just the monetary response. Like we did this show for 3 years, almost full time, before we ever got any money from it.
Oh, we made like, I don't know, I think for the first couple years we might have made from AdSense revenue like $2,000 for like 2 years or something. Like it was literally like nothing. Well, not literally, but I mean, like when you span that out over months, it's like, hey, 20 bucks,
it was
20 bucks, 20
well,
bucks.
yeah. And if you look at the time cost, the opportunity cost, everything,
Right.
it was costing us money to do this, but there are other benefits to doing something like this that are not based in money, right? There's the community aspect. There's the personal, like there's all those like important things that are important for me and important for you, where it's like, okay, I have all these other things set up where I can generate my income, and that will allow me to pursue things that I want to do, like this podcast or like original music or whatever. And I think that's an important thing to talk about and be honest about. It's like, not everything that you do has to be an income earner. There are things that you can do just because you like doing them, or you see the opportunity, and this might lead to something else in the past. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's like, this is why everything is important. If you're finding yourself getting interested in learning something that's not directly attributed to what you do for a living, that's okay. You should do that, because everything informs everything, right? I got into cameras 13 years ago, and now I work with cameras every day for a living, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's important. All this stuff is important. And I just want everyone to get through this and weather the storm and come out on the other side. I know that's not realistic. Things are going to change, but people in this industry are resilient. They're smart. They're strong. And I think a lot of these brands and these companies will be made better and stronger for this, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe to wrap up this portion, in talking about pursuing your own stuff, I realized a few weeks ago, Matthew was talking to me, I've been doing Mythos for 15 years. Like,
that's wild.
Not full time, mind you, but it took a long time to get to this. So if you're going to do any of this stuff, just, be prepared for the long haul.
Yeah. This is my 7th year of YouTube, I think.
Yeah.
7th year.
Yeah.
And I still have a long way to go, man.
Yeah.
Long way to go.
It's wild when you like put it, down to like the part of your life that has been taken up by this is pretty substantial, and like thinking about working another job for 7 years, or, even for some people being in a relationship for that long. It's like, these are all things that, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So,
long time, but you can do a lot in that time.
Yes. You gotta get good and stay hungry.
Get good, brother.
Get good.
So, not to continue the bummer train, but we did want to acknowledge the passing of Mark Samson.
Yes.
Famed amp designer and builder. We all know and love the Samson era matchless amps, and I had just met him at NAMM a few weeks ago for the first time, and I was excited to meet him through Bad Cat and through John at Bad Cat. He had come out of retirement to come work with Bad Cat to develop a whole new line of amps. And I said in our NAMM wrap-up episode, my favorite piece of gear from NAMM was the Era 50, which was the Mark Samson Bad Cat, his updated and sort of ultimate version of the famed matchless Samson Era DC30, HC30. So yeah, we heard last week he passed away, and it's just incredibly sad, man. He left a major footprint on this industry, and so
and sadly he was not that old. So
no,
I think about those things a lot. I think about my own death a lot, which is probably counterintuitive, but as sad as it is, he's never really gone.
Yeah,
because all these things he made are still there, making music, doing the thing that he wanted them to do. And there's something so immortal about having that legacy, which is something that so few of us could ever achieve and even hope for. That there's some solace in that, that despite his loss and despite, that he's gone, he's still going to be like, his fingerprint is literally still on so many musician's sound, which is incredible.
It's one of the cool things about doing like what you do, for example. You're not just making gear, you're not just making pedals, or you're making the tools that artists use to craft their art. You're making the tools that people use to find their sound. You're making the paintbrush or the paper that people are using to find their voice and to express themselves, or you're making art that impacts culture. You know, this was put into perspective for me years ago when remember when Jay just did the pedals, the musical thing?
Yeah.
Tilly and I went and were a part of that. And one of the takeaways that I got from that through Josh and his like infectious just obsession with the history of this stuff is in the 60s, these things, the Maestro FZ1, the Fuzz Face, the Univibe, these tools were used to make art that literally shaped the direction of the world, the Vietnam War, like the civil rights era. Like all of this stuff was so heavily informed by and shaped by art and protest music and the music that was coming out of England and the US and they were using these tools.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a pedal, right? Yeah, it's a tone bender. Sure. Or it's a fuzz face. But when you look at Hendrix playing Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock as kind of an act of protest, and we're still talking about it 60 something years later, that's significant. So when you look at someone like Mark Samson, he designed a unbelievably great amp, but how many people have used those amps to find their sound or use that tool to create art and create music that has had a positive impact on other people's lives? It's huge. It's more than just a guitar. It's more than just an amp in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Do you remember the first Matchless that you ever played?
Starliner Reverb. They had one at the music school I went to in Atlanta.
Okay. I don't know that one.
I don't really either. That's the only one I've ever seen is a combo. I don't know what it was. It must have been an early 90s one because this would have been, well, actually, I don't even know. This would have been 2009, 2010. So Starliner Reverb combo. I think it was a 112. I just remember the name because I always thought that was a great name for an amp. Starliner.
Yeah, I've never. I'll have to find it because I remember playing a DC-30, like a Samson era DC-30, and it was just like I was shocked at how loud it was. Like most 30-watt things. But man, just like such a chime, like beautiful, complex like sound. It made you want to keep playing it. And, that's just a testament to how talented his designs were.
I sat at the Bad Cat booth at NAMM for 20 minutes playing that Era 50 with Mark sitting on the couch right next to me while I was playing. And it was that exact thing. I didn't want to stop playing it. They had a rack of different guitars there, and I'd play one for 5 minutes. I'd set it down, pick up another one, plug it in, play that for 5 minutes, pick it in. I mean, NAMM, like you just don't do that kind of thing at NAMM. You can't hear, it's chaotic. There's always a ton of stuff happening. But for 20 minutes, I just got locked into that amp.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to Mark for a minute. He was super kind, super nice. And before all this, John from Bad Cat, there's one he built for me. I think it's probably on the way. And I was already excited about having the opportunity to get my hands on that amp, but now it's going to mean something completely different. It's like, oh, this was kind of the last thing he did. And it'll be something to cherish and hold on to. It's like a story thing almost, like I met him, I got to play this amp, I got to talk to him about it right before he passed away. And so there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, you will be missed, Mark.
Yeah. Sorry, this is such a bummer episode, y'all. Normally we're way, if this is your first episode of Dipped, we're normally a lot more fun than this, but there's a lot of heavy shit happening right now.
Yeah,
so
go watch the PRS one and argue in the comment section like everyone else. Depressed in
Slippery
tone.
Depressed in tone.
Oh man. Well, let's liven things up. Let's dip a rig and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah. I'm going to start day drinking, I think.
Oh yeah. That's what Morgan said she was going to do today. But she had to go to Graham's school and help with the musical. So
maybe she'll just day drink at school. Why not?
Yeah. Hell yeah. Kids, check this cool shit out. Okay.
Whoa.
So this one is from our pal Atticus. Great name.
Hell yeah.
So some amplifiers from the Great White North appeared. Rev Generator 120 with a 4x12 Rev cab. The PRS S2 McCarty and a Reverend Charger. On the pedal board, we got the Earthquaker Plumes, Grand Orbiter, Hyzumitis. I don't even know. The big muff one with the rabbits on it. The Strymon Big Sky MX, Ultraviolet, Walrus Monument, a Juliana, a Pog 2, and a 10-band EQ, and he's got a Morning Star on that thing. So I don't know. I thought this it's covering a lot of ground here.
Man, okay. Guitars are rad. I love the brown on that Reverend. That is 70s brown. It's just like 1973. My Ford LTD, 2-door, 73 Brougham Landau top, brown opera windows in the back. It's brown on brown on brown, and it's like that brown right there. I love it. Those Reverends are sweet, man.
They are, and they're cool because I don't know which knob. I think it's this top knob is a bass contour.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's neat. So you have like your classic tone, your low pass filter, and then you have a bass knob, a high pass filter. So you can kind of shape the overall voice of the guitar. But then we got the PRS 594 S2, which are, great guitars, American made, Maryland made guitar.
Man, when I did my PRS shootout a few years ago, I really liked that S2. I did the custom 24 line, but that one to me, I think that one was the overall pick for me because, there was a step up in quality and feel from the SE line to the American made stuff. Not a huge one. It's not like a massive difference, but once you got into the American made stuff, the difference between the S2 and the top of the line Wood Library, whatever, is actually not that different in terms of feel and sound. They're really pretty close to each other. Especially in terms of sound, like they didn't really sound all that different. And I really liked the S2 one. And I was like, man, if I'm in the market for a PRS, I think there's a good case to be made for just getting the S2 because it's 90%, 95% as good as the super high end one. And it's significantly less money.
They have basically the same neck. Currently, they have the same electronics. Used to, they basically had like the import electronics, but in an American guitar. But I'm pretty sure all the new S2s are nitro now. So,
cool.
Like, it's a flatter top. They don't really have the same. They have a cap, but
it doesn't have the carve and everything. Yeah,
and not the violin carve. But man, they're really great guitars. I still think the PRS S2 Vela is like the coolest guitar that PRS makes. What are your thoughts about this Rev? I mean, the Generator has as many knobs as the Apollo capsule.
This is too many knobs.
It's
brother.
A lot.
Can we get a zoom in? Can we enhance this?
Yes. Man,
enhance.
CSI dipped in tone. DIT.
Okay.
CSI.
Wow.
So the cool thing about some of the Rev stuff is that they have IR loaders built in. They have headphone solutions built in. So they have pretty much everything you need to like practice, gig. You can still play and mic this thing up. Obviously, there's some marks on the cab for a mic. And they cover a wide range of tones. Most of the Rev stuff that I'm familiar with is like the D20, the more low gain things. But they do a lot of the higher gain stuff, which is really cool. But this, I'm sure has a lot of sounds.
I do like the Rev stuff, and I like the Rev guys a lot. They're super sweet guys. Shout out to Winnipeg, Manitoba. This would not be the amp for me. I'm struggling to see why do we need all of this? So we have 4 channels?
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. So channel 1 has a 3-band EQ. Channel 2 has a 3-band EQ with a
gain knob.
Okay. Channel 3 has a 3-band EQ, gain and level. Channel 4, another 3-band EQ. So is the point here that you're just gonna, and all the Mesa heads in the chat are like, oh Jesus, this guy doesn't understand. They're rolling their eyes. But like, so you have 4 different sounds dialed into your amp, but do we need that?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I wouldn't mind it if that was your main gain thing. If you were only using the amp and like, let's say you had a cover gig or like a gig where you had to cover a lot of ground, then like maybe you could do that. And it admittedly, he's got the plumes down here and then the fuzz, but there's not that much gain happening. So I'd say he's using, it's hard to tell from the settings, but it looks like he's using the plumes as a booster. So I don't know. You have the crystalline clean, the push, the gain, the higher gain. That the channel 4 there, he's got his het filled settings with treble, mid scooped and bass. I mean, I like that, but yeah, I don't. It's cool. It's
not for me. It's a lot. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. I will say, if we go to the board here, though, props for the EQ pedal. We don't see enough of this on boards. I think a lot of guitar players don't think about buying an EQ because it's kind of not a fun thing to buy, right? It's like, it's not going to make a cool noise. It's not going to do a thing. But you can do a lot of really cool shit with an EQ, especially a 10-band MXR?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is another one of those staple things I think a lot of players should think about adding to their rig. It can be a boost. It can be an overdrive. It can be a tone shaper. It can fix problems, especially if you're gigging a lot. If you're the type of person that's gigging a lot and you're playing in a lot of different rooms, having an EQ on your board is super necessary because you know what it's like to go into a room and all of a sudden your amp sounds completely different because of just the shape of the room or the stage or something. It's like, oh, there's way too much low end or I'm not hearing something, and you can just fix it on your board. Throw in the effects loop of your amp if your amp has an effects loop. Yeah, they're great, man.
Yeah, Atticus is in the chat, and he said that the EQ is a lifesaver on certain rooms and tour, and I can only imagine. Yeah, I like this board. I mean, you got a lot of ground covered here. Love the Grand Orbiter. Not many people talk about that thing. I think that's a killer pedal. Pog 2, we were just talking about that thing. It's like nothing sounds like Pog, man. It's such a rad thing.
I need to get one. I've never owned one. It's like the Whammy the other week. Oh, I've never owned a Whammy. I've never owned a Pog.
Yeah, you gotta get. Yeah,
I know.
I feel like a Whammy. Whammy's the one you need first.
Yeah. But I'm proud to say I managed to make it through 6 years of basically full-time mega church gigs, having never owned a Pog.
Well, did you have a Big Sky?
I did have Big Sky.
So you had the shimmer on there. So you.
Yeah, but it's not the same shimmer.
I know.
It's not the same.
But I think this is cool. I mean, you got the Morningstar to be the brain of the thing.
We got a blank space there. Are we trying to fill that, you think?
What are you put there? I think a Mythos Mjolnir would fit there perfectly.
Wait, is there a delay on this board? There's no delay here.
No. I mean, you have the Big Sky, so you have all the reverb. Atticus, do you need delay?
Yeah, you need delay. Come on, let's be reasonable here. Let's not be. Let's grab a delay for that. You know what? For that slot, I think one of the.
He says there's a delay built into the new Big Sky MX.
Yeah, no. What we need is one of the. Ooh, I know exactly what we need.
Okay.
I really love the Benson analog delay.
What was it?
Let me grab it. Hold on.
While he's gone, I'll just do this. For all the people listening at home, I'm so sorry. This is, I know it's stupid, but sometimes you just need things to add a bit of levity to your life, and like these things are great. Yeah, you could always check out a Mythos Oracle. because it's a full analog delay with a tap, and I bet the Morningstar could contain or to work with that.
So, were you talking about the Oracle just now? I couldn't hear.
I was.
Yeah. So this has been my little practice board this week, and it's on there. It's rad.
Sweet.
This one I like because, God damn it. Hold for cable. This one's really great too. The Benson delay, because it has there's an LFO, so you have control over the amount of pitch modulation.
Throws on me. So
you can do that really fun Memory Man-esque kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, the Benson's cool because it's actually a PT2399, a digital chip, but like set in an analog circuit, and it's super smart. Like Chris really knocked it out of the park with that thing. Yeah,
it's rad. All right, what are we rating this?
Man, I like it. I think, the rev is a lot, but maybe Atticus needs a lot. So I want to give this a rock solid 8.3. I like it.
I like that. Okay, that's good. I think I like the board setup. I like the guitar selection here. The amp is tough for me. Again, it's not a rev thing. I like rev. Just the particular model is not my cup of tea, so I'm going to have to dock some points for that. I'm going to give this a 7.0 flat.
Okay. What about that? What about that picture?
7.2.
Yeah, that's right.
Look at that. Look at that guy. Look at him.
Cool.
Dude, Bloodhound glasses. Come on.
Classic.
Hell yeah.
So we can chill and we can bounce. Would you have a shill?
Yeah. Oh, I do have a shill, actually. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
You're going to... Hold on.
I'm going to not like it.
So I have been gassing hard for this thing for like 6 months. And a good friend of mine here in Atlanta has one. And I was playing on his record 2 weeks ago, and he had it in the studio. And I was asking him about it. Like, man, is it worth it? Should I just buy one? Because they're kind of expensive and they're kind of hard to find right now. He's like, dude, just take this one. It'll cure your gas. Meaning, like, you're going to play it and understand that you don't really need one. It is the Solar 42F ambient drone machine. Just get a good look at that. Get a gander at that. It is a semi-modular multi-voice synthesizer. 40 in the chat's like, oh, absolutely not. This thing's wild, dude. It is wild. It basically just does one thing, but it does it really, really well, which is the ambient cinematic Brian Eno synthesis thing. It has 6 voices. And the way it works is you have these 4 voices up top. So these groups of knobs here are 4 different voices. And there's 5 oscillators for each voice that you have to manually tune. It's fully analog. In fact, you kind of have to let it warm up because the oscillators drift. So I turn it on, I let it sit for like 20 minutes, and then I will tune. But you tune each one of these voices to a different chord here. Amp with tons of knobs, synths with tons of knobs. Yes. See, Larry gets it. I don't like the rev. That's like too much. But this, right in the pocket. And then, so these sort of keyboard buttons down here basically let you trigger the drone voices. So you can dial in like a chord progression up here. You got 2 more voices down here. And then these 2 voices in the middle are controlled by this keypad, which is a keyboard, and you can dial it in different scales and stuff. So the idea is like you play a drone sort of chord, and then you can play a melody on top. The circle sun thing in the middle is a contact microphone. You can sit and like tap on it, or you can make the thing self oscillate. The microphone is so sensitive that like if you have speakers in the room, the chassis will start to vibrate itself, and it'll start to.
It's microphonic.
Yeah, basically it's microphonic. This little chip in the top, you see a little card sticking out of the top there?
Kind of. Oh yeah.
That's those are some effects, and it comes with a bunch of different cards. So this is like a cathedral reverb. It's
how much are these damn things?
They're like 2,800. Well, if you can get one for retail, I think it's like $1,900. But the thing is, this is built by a very small group of people that I think they were based in Ukraine, moved, obvious reasons. So manufacturing's been kind of spotty, but yeah, they're not cheap.
That's cool. I mean, like, I think people would think I'm rad. Like, bleh. But I love that sort of music. But wow.
Yeah. The last thing is these little like eyeball looking things here are light sensors. And so you can turn it on to basically the light will modulate the pitch of the voices. So it's like you put a shadow over it or something.
So it's a light dependent resistor with like a lens on it.
Yeah. You get it.
Hey, 15 years, but that's a lot of stuff. Mine is a little less complicated. In fact, it couldn't be any less complicated. I don't think I've ever shown this, but I was talking to my friend Greg Eds, who works at Wildwood Guitars. He's like a drug dealer, man. He's like, look at this Les Paul we got. I'm like, quit texting me.
Stop.
But he's like, oh yeah, this is in Beauty of the Burst. And so I pulled out my copy of Beauty of the Burst. And, if you've never looked at this book, it's just, a bunch of pictures of every,
I need to get that book. I've always heard people talk about it because it's kind of like the Bible for bursts. And
yeah, and it's funny because I've always heard that the hard copies are like $500. These are not.
What?
Yeah, but the hard copy has the right color. All of these, I don't know if it comes across on the camera, but they're all very orange. Like
I say this as a pretty diehard Les Paul guy. Les Paul guys are annoying as hell. This works. This has the exact color.
Here's the whole point of that is that people go to great lengths to copy these colors and say, oh, it's page 74 of the Beauty of the Burst book. But if you
stand by what I said,
if you copy this, then it won't look like the actual guitar. It'd be very orange. But you're right. No, we're annoying. Oh, we are annoying.
I say that
Joe
as
Perry.
No, it is cool. It is cool to see how they've all aged differently and how they, and to document them and it is cool. Us
Les Paul guys we're some weirdos.
We're some weirdos. Do you see? Not to call out Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum, but I saw a clip of him the other day where he was like, I think swapping pickups the same pickup is stupid.
I commented on that on Threads and it got a lot of traction. Yeah, he said that
I held myself back.
He said all PAFs basically sound the same. I'm like, well, then you haven't played it. I mean, it's like I've played hundreds of like clones probably over the years. Not hundreds, but maybe I've played a lot.
I would say you've maybe played hundreds.
I mean, I've probably played hundreds. But I've owned and had in my personal guitars probably 30 or 40 different permutations of PAF. A lot. And they all are very different.
Yeah, they just are. Maybe you can't hear it, Ryan.
Maybe not. Hey, I don't think everybody can hear shit. And that's
maybe you just can't hear it. And that's okay. All right. Well, with that, thanks for hanging out. Sorry it was a bummer episode, y'all, but we'll be back next week. And don't forget, check out Patreon down below if you want to support the show. And subscribe here on YouTube. And we're going to jump into the bonus episode for the patrons right now. So we'll see you guys over there.
Bye.